Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Nasdaq Spotlight. I'm your host, Jack Castle, and joining us today at the Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center in San Francisco, California, is the CEO and founder of Motherduck, Jordan Tigani. Jordan, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So let's start off for the audience members that might not be aware of Motherduck. What solutions do you provide and what problem are you solving?
Sure, so we're a serverless analytics product. Based on an open source product. Open source product is called DuckDB, hence the name Motherduck. We are in the we help your ducklings fly in the cloud. A little bit corny, definitely, but you can think of sort of Snowflake, BigQuery, Redshift, but perhaps for smaller data sizes.
Okay. Now you recently wrote that big data is dead. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So for a long time, I worked at Google. I worked on Google BigQuery, and I saw a lot of what our customers were doing, and most of them didn't actually have big data. And so you think about it as like, okay, the product is called BigQuery. You think it's for big data, big data analytics, and it turns out that many of them had much smaller amounts of data. The ones that did have big data, they often only used a smaller portion of it. The systems that we're building to handle giant data sets, actually, we don't need to build them quite so elaborately anymore. Like Moore's law has been continuing to increase the transistor density for 50 years. Mm-hmm. And machines are 1,000 times more powerful than when people started building out these scale out systems. So scale up is much more possible than it had been in the future. And also just a lot of the data that people have is data that just sort of sits around and they don't really know what to do with it. Data is actually a liability. And so even if you do have giant amounts of data, you may be better off actually pruning it down, summarizing it, and then you can do things much less expensively and actually have better usability of your data. Sort of the idea is that rather than designing your systems around the scale, design the systems around, okay, how do I make the best usage out of it?
Okay, and so we've seen a large trend recently, and it feels like it's growing day by day around AI and kind of the growth of AI in a lot of our systems and solutions. What are the implications of AI for Motherduck?
Yeah, so it's a great question because I think AI is changing everything, and everything in, I think, virtually every industry. Everybody's going to have to figure out what's our AI story. Mm-hmm. And the tricky part is that I think there's sort of the obvious answer. The obvious answer, like, okay, so if you're writing code, using AI to write code is going to be helpful. If you're an analytics system, having people be able to use AI to sort of write their queries is sort of that's sort of the easy and obvious answer. But I think there's a lot of other interesting things, like what are the other pieces that you need when you're building an AI system? What are the things you need to kind of teach these large language models about your own system? And what's the right way to store that? And I think that there's a big opportunity for data providers or data infrastructure providers to kind of build the picks and shovels of the AI era. I don't know exactly how that's going to turn out. I feel like the exciting thing about what's going on in AI is how much of it is unknown. But I do think the companies that are going to succeed are the ones that are going to be able to react most quickly and nimbly to the way things are changing. Yeah,
that's a very good perspective on it. So excited to see how that plays out for you. Love to dovetail to the Enterprise Tech 30 list. I mean, it is a great list of the top 30 enterprise software companies voted on by a just group of experts. Congratulations, and I'm glad we're speaking. This is your first year for Motherduck being elected to this list. What does that mean for you and the company?
So first of all, it's a great honor. I looked at that list and I'm like, are you those are legit companies on this list? It's it's pretty extraordinary to be on, mentioned in the same breath as a lot of those other companies. And all I can say is that, it sets the bar of what we're going to have to succeed to prove to people that we deserve to be there.
Yeah, well, early days, and now putting on your founder hat, we like to always kind of conclude the conversation with getting some of your advice for any entrepreneurs that are tuning in, that especially in today's environment, maybe some words of advice that you'd have for them.
Yeah, I think some advice for getting started is there's a lot of people who are going to give you advice, and the thing is, that advice is going to conflict. So somebody will tell you should raise as much money as possible. Somebody else is going to tell you should raise as little money as possible. Mm-hmm. Neither of those is wrong, and I think the interesting thing for me was you have to figure out what's best for you and what's best for your company, rather than be there's nobody who's you're going to be able to just listen to as oh, that person has the best advice for me and for my company. You really have to start actually developing the kind of the muscle and the ability to build a kind of decision framework for how you make a lot of these decisions. There's going to be lots and lots of them for how you compensate people, and and what type of company you actually want to be, and that's actually super exciting once you sort of figure that out and you're like, hey, I can navigate this on my own. You kind of feel like you've leveled up a little bit. Mm-hmm. And but I would also, the key thing is just, there's nobody out there who can tell you what the right answer is. You gotta figure it out on your own.
Yeah. Okay. Well said. Might have to quote you on that and find it somewhere. Well, Jordan, it's been such a pleasure speaking with you. Congratulations again on your success and being elected to the list this year.
Thank you so much.